8 o'clock. By the time of the
Should make that sound.
section. 5:30. All set, Jane?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order.
I didn't hear it say it's recording. did
I
you?
didn't either.
I didn't hear that either.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, gotta make sure.
It's definitely recording.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the
Maybe
volume's
just
not
leave
up.
the volume.
That seems like it should be loud enough.
Try pausing it and starting it again, just to see if it says anything.
Hi, Tara. Can you say something so I can tell if the volume's up?
Trying to
She's
unmute.
still muted. Hold on.
Sorry, I didn't know if I could unmute myself or if
Nope,
you had
can't
to,
hear you.
but
Okay, we had this issue the other day, right?
Computer volume? Does it matter? Doesn't matter, the volume on the computer matters?
Oh, wait a minute.
When did that change if we just leave it like this?
I don't know, but it happened last time too.
I mean, I have the green folder.
Volume on here is up loud.
Okay.
I can hear you guys fine if that matters.
Now it shows the label that was.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. The famous one, that's it, but-
But you said this the first time I loaded it with silence.
They can still hear you. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna have to just use this TV for now, but it seems to be working, so.
Okay.
Can we hear them?
Hi, Tara.
Do you want to try again?
I can hear you.
All right, in case
Like
of, We're calling the meeting to order. First order of business is to review minutes from previous meetings. Let's start with the January 30th meeting. Well, that's regular meeting.
I had something on line 158. It says the BOS met on January, we put the BOS and the skate park committee. I just want people to know we included them and didn't just go make the decision on our own. And that was it, that's all I had. And I'll make a motion to approve those meeting minutes with that addition.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, we had a meeting on February 2nd, and that was the public hearing for the two bond issues. Any
Yes,
changes? Okay.
on line 173. Oh. Let's look at that. Last page, it says also discussion about selling, how about presenting?
Yeah.
Even though I know that was your word, it just. And I'll make a motion to accept the bond hearing minutes of February 2nd as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
We also have non-public. From January 30th. Make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes of January 30th.
This has been on public.
Okay.
Contract.
Need a second.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we also had a meeting on Thursday, no, Friday.
There's.
I don't know, it's on my calendar. February 3rd, Friday. Of which Jack and I were there, and we met, and Karina was there, and we met with, two representatives, Blue Mountain, to talk about the traffic issue. We don't have minutes for that, typed up. I will, just to report on what went on. Talk with Loon about the traffic issues that, occur out backing up Route 112 and sometimes up to Main Street. Loon Mountain is going to be simultaneously parking the main lot, the children's center lot, and the river lot up in the morning. Those will all be being parked at. As they see that it's busy and those lots are either slowing down or becoming full, they're gonna open up the beach lot, and they've talked about doing that earlier than they have been to try to pull traffic off of Route 112. And in the same vein, they're gonna open up the escape route parking lot as the last lot, again, a little bit earlier than they have been. And along with that, the Brian from Loon and Chief Morris are working to get, which we did get, a
It's already out there.
sign from the state to put out in front of, or before where the turning lane is for escape route to direct people in that direction. So those measures are being initiated to alleviate the parking. Sorry. And we're anticipating that that's, but next year, if all goes as we're planning, there will be a new lift service from the escape route parking lot, which is the biggest area to park. And that should pull a lot of people off of Main Street to not tie up the further end of Route 112. People are gonna be more willing to park there right off, knowing that they can get on a lift and go rather than wait for shuttle buses. So we're thinking that this traffic, there's always gonna be traffic, but the issue that we were specifically looking at will be greatly improved with the opening of that new lift and people wanting to park at escape route to get on the mountain sooner. So that was the summary from that meeting, that took place on Friday. But we don't have minutes to approve for that yet.
We will be.
What's that?
So we'll have them.
Next-
Yeah, because I sent in the thing.
Yeah, we have.
I didn't do it right away, I know.
We have notes, they're just not on a pretty format yet.
Right,
If I might add,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the sign helped this weekend, as someone that observed the traffic, there was less, it seemed, backup on 112. And as you know, it's a public safety issue to get that traffic off as soon as we can, so I think it did help. Thank
Good to know.
the chief and the state for responding so quickly, because I didn't think he made the call on the Thursday, we had the device on a Friday or Saturday.
And I think we'll have that until the end of the season,
Yeah.
or for at least until middle of March. So-
And we're coming into vacation weeks here.
Mhm.
Do you want to roll? It's be important. Yep. Good, excellent.
all right, next thing on the agenda is a public hearing, a public meeting regarding the skate park. This was talked about at a previous meeting that the board met with the skate park committee. The original site for this down at Riverfront Park has run into trouble with really time and expense of mitigating the
Brownfield site.
yeah, it's technically a brownfield site. There's underground pollution, and not that we weren't aware of that, but the studies that were done, I mean, the first study we got back in 2017 indicated that there was some underground chemicals and waste, but
Minor contaminants.
it was termed minor and termed localized. It wasn't like spread out over the whole site. And we kind of under the impression that it was gonna be, and we're gonna be digging there anyway, it was gonna be part of the digging and site work process to clean this up. And when we got like the last report, the cost to remove even the small amounts that were there, was in the estimate of like $800,000, which to a complete wrench into the plans. To continue with the conversation about the waste, that the town will likely be eligible for Brownsfield money to help clean that up. We got a Brownsfield grant to do the final stage of the investigation. So that was helpful. We would anticipate that we would be in line to get additional monies for the cleanup. The problem with that is the time frame for that extends well beyond what we had planned. It extends beyond the grant that we got from Northern Borders, or no? What
No,
the grant that we got to do the improvements at the Riverfront Park, and I forget the name of the.
it's Department of Cultural Resources and
Land and cultural resources.
Thank you,
And-
Land and
thank you.
Cultural Resources grant that we got. It's beyond the time frame for that, and most importantly, it's beyond the time frame for the major grant that the skate park committee got to actually build the skate park. So if we went with that, we would lose that grant money. So we have talked to the skate park committee about alternative sites. And the two that were in really consideration was over at the community center and at the Tank Rec area. There are numerous problems moving it to the Tank Rec area. Number one, location, where to put it at the rec area. There's obviously there's slope issues to deal with. And then fitting it in between parking, sledding hills, skiing hills, basketball courts, baseball fields. There was no appropriate place to really put it. And secondly, is that during the summertime, that facility gets used every day, well, every midweek day for the day camp adventure program. And we would not be able to allow the skate park to be open while it was being used for those
Yeah.
programs. Okay, we can't do that. They treat that like a a school facility where
School
it's,
zone, yeah.
school zone, where it's, participants, but yeah, protected participants only. We went over to the community center and really saw a lot of advantages, even over with the initial location with the community center as far as, access, buildability, the ability to keep an eye on it, where it's on a road that the public travels by and can visually see what's going on, that the police drive by and visually.
And next to a building that's staffed and open 5 days a week with the community center, and the senior center. And childcare center.
And it's a level area and it's already being used for, kids. Granted, they play on generally the right side of the building, but it's on that same piece of property is used for
After school program.
after school
Yeah,
recreation program.
and the adventure camp in the summer.
So, we first we met with the skateboard committee and it was pretty unanimous, and I would say even an enthusiastic response that that's the place to do it. The next step was to bring it before the planning board, which we did, just to get their input and blessing on this. They all agreed that so long as the town had, what we're doing right now is public hearings where we can get input from people, that they, I don't know, they wouldn't need to have their own public hearings separate from what we do here. It's as long as we have them, they would be good with the process of moving forward, pending what comes up at the hearings. So we scheduled 2 public hearings, one obviously for tonight, one for 2 weeks from tonight. And we're here to listen to responses, input, questions, or whatever about having the skate park. As you look, as you look at from Pollard Road, look at the community center, the parking lot, the community gardens. What we're proposing is to put the skateboard park to the left of the community gardens and to the right of sort of the buffer of trees that we would leave there between the community center property and the properties to the left of that. So there would be some tree removal, but we're not stripping all the trees out all the way to the border. We would leave a buffer front to back along that border. So with that being said, we're open to listen to your thoughts, trying to answer questions. Here, it's a hearing, we're here to listen. So I'll open up the public hearing for any comments or questions.
You want us to come to the microphone or you want us to speak from here?
I think we're small enough crowd, as long as you speak from there is
Just
fine.
state your name first for
Yeah,
the
Okay,
minutes.
my name is Bill Robinson, 211 Pollard, so obviously we're straight opposite that. Interestingly, not averse to your actual site. I have to ask one question is, do you actually feel as if this is actually going to be utilised sufficient for whatever expenditure is going to be put into that skate park? Because I don't see a lot of people skating or skateboarding, whatever it is. That's my first question.
Well, it's not costing the town of Lincoln anything. There's a skate park committee that has raised money, lots of money over the years.
Yeah.
Over quite a few years to build it.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily the money, it's just, I've seen loads of skate parks all around, unused, and they end up being an eyesore because people will spray them and whatever else.
I
That's
have the complete opposite experience. I've
okay.
visited many skateboard parks, as this has been going on over the years. And even with some of my kids years ago, bringing them to different skateboard parks and.
Yeah, we didn't say we're not averse to
I
this.
don't know, I don't
And
see that, yeah.
211. We're not adverse to it at all. One of my big questions is, I have 2. Will there be hours that the skaters will adhere to?
It won't be at 3 o'clock in the morning, we can assure you that, right, Kevin?
Sure.
if you get 10 o'clock at night.
No,
Is it,
no, no after dark,
We're
it won't be
talking
lit.
on to dusk.
okay,
We don't plan to light it.
Okay,
yeah.
so, Tammy, we've talked about this before. There are people, and I'm very happy for the speed monitor. However, as we do know, there's kids, the little kids come from, and it's after school, obviously. We still have a lot of speeding.
Frightful amount.
I agree. I
And you
agree.
were putting- and you were putting,
So we just
Was it?
want to be careful, like, I don't know what age group these skaters are, if there's certain age groups that'll have times there or whatever, but. Putting children back on, against that road, I potentially see some disaster, like, I don't want that to
I
happen.
hear you, I hear you.
That's my big concern. I mean, we talk about, 112 in Main Street. We get between 8 and 8:30 AM every weekend and 3:30 to 4:15. Pollard Road is a madhouse. With people coming off the loop.
and it's not just then, I mean, interesting, I went for a walk this afternoon. And I recognize all of the residents who live in this town who regularly speed. All right, and as I was just walking along, I just happened to glance back. And there's one person in particular who I pick up, and I'm not gonna give the name of that person. 42 miles an hour. And it's almost that flashing dial is now a challenge to them. But we've seen 50, 60, 70 miles an hour along that road on a regular basis on a Friday and Saturday afternoon. And, it's great that Loon are doing something to get people in, fabulous. More people to Loon, but how about actually putting some money in to actually sort the other problem out of the rat race or the rat run that is Pollard Road? Because that's what they should be doing.
But all that to say, we just are concerned, like, we have no problem with the skate park.
No.
We don't have any problem with
No.
it going in. We do have some concerns. In our house, I would like, and it looks straight onto it. So we just want to know, I would never want to witness anything.
No, I agree.
You know,
I don't think
I
any of us would.
I'm not a first responder.
Well, I do know that the parking, there's gonna be parking in between the skate park and the road, so that the park itself won't be right up against the road. But it will
Oh,
be,
okay.
there will be parking in between Pollard Road and the skate park itself.
Yeah,
And part of the state grant, from the Department of Cultural Resources or whatnot. Because this is a community engagement grant or a community, upgrade grant, or I don't know the specific
Sure.
term. They were very concerned about making sure that the sidewalks were adequate for the pedestrian traffic walking from the school over to. We might have to make some improvements in that area. Right now, it appears that we'll meet those, but they were also concerned with that, making sure that it is safe for pedestrians crossing from the school to have access walking from the, the village to the
Sure.
community building. So that will be addressed throughout the grant process.
As I say, it's the.
To answer your question, one of your questions, I mean, the traffic is more heavily in the wintertime, as we know, than it is in the summertime. Well, wait a minute. I've done some traffic counts there myself when we talked about, the putting in the signs. I live on the other side. I get caught in the traffic just like you. I live in town. Obviously, I wouldn't be sitting here if I did. The other thing too, as we've talked with the skateboard committee, we talked about possibly, not guaranteed, putting a fence there. Like you said, safety is paramount here, whether it's traffic, kids running out in the street, just like they have on the other side of the building, there's a fence around the children's play area. So again, we don't want somebody running out into the street. And obviously, we've talked with the chief about, expediting the patrols there if this happens in this area. You have to protect the children of the town. And it's so vitally important, not only that, but to protect the residents backing out into the street, coming in and out of their driveways and things like that. So no, it's not. I mean, and I'm not gonna argue with about numbers, but I did, when we talked about putting signs down there, I did stand down there for, I think, 3 or 4 hours, over 3 or 4 days down there, and made little mental notes and physical notes. So
Danielle?
Danielle from 37 School Street, we also have speeders. What about, would there be enough allotment financially to put like speed risers in that location of the community center when we're not plowing snow? you know, from spring to fall, just to keep them a little bit safer.
Temporary, yeah,
Yeah.
temporary ones.
Yeah, yeah, and they have signs to alert people that there's speed bumps ahead. So it's,
That's not a bad idea. Also,
Yeah.
plowing is the issue in the winter.
well, yeah,
Right.
I mean, they make them too out of concrete where the plows could rise up over them, but I don't. But I
Yeah,
think.
they call them humps, speed humps, yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Plows
imagine
will, right?
anybody's gonna be
They
using a
do
skate
have-
park in the winter, but.
We did price them a few,
Yeah.
this was quite a few years ago. They're like rubber and they put in with spikes.
Yeah.
And they
Don't use
weren't,
the spikes that come with them because they're. terrible.
they weren't cheap, but they weren't ridiculous either.
No,
I recall.
Yeah.
That's certainly a good thing we could look into.
Yeah, I mean, we incorporated them on property where I manage and,
Oh, you did?
I mean, they still speed up to them and some people still fly over them, but the majority will slow down and be considerate. So that's always an option too, just to keep it in check.
Sure. What about a traffic camera? Pointed at that sign that says how fast they're going and gets a good picture of the license plate.
That's really more
They
expensive
should
than the
have
rest.
to
We
keep
could
it
check that.
Enforceable that.
We've
But so
got a country full of speed cameras.
Yeah.
you've had Canada, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Fred Merriman. My wife Peggy, we live at 14 White Birch Lane, so we're right up behind this.
Okay.
We love the sound of the kids playing, and most of the time they're up on the hill in the back,
Yeah.
constantly playing back there. Love that sound, but we're averse to this. We don't think it should be in the neighborhood. We're not against, us
the riverfront.
advancements, riverfront or something that Kank are excellent, and I know you have. Okay, look at those, and I would suggest that we try to. If you look at the Kank again, we walked down there today and we looked at that and said, there's so much property there. There's got to be a way to do this, because we're in a neighborhood and my concern is noise, number one. Number two, we love Loon, we go to Loon, we ski all the time. The crowds are at Loon, and if this becomes popular, they'll be here. And what follows crowds, and I don't want to talk about anyone in a negative way, but there's a lot of pot, there's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of this going on at Loon now.
At 8:30.
At 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's the
It's
three
almost
things
every
about
other
the
clock.
skate parks. You know, this is cost, this is the 3 Cs. Cost, it's crowds, and the last one is crime. That's what happens in these parks. And you can say it's a nice thing for families and whatnot, but it's usually, it's the elderly, the older, more experienced skaters, the riders that push out the kids. It becomes limited to a certain number of people who end up taking over the park, because you're not going to be supervising it, leasing it, are you?
The
I'm
police
just-
will be
I'm just
keeping an eye on
concerned
it.
about these things in the neighborhood, all right?
That's one of the things that we are also concerned
I'm not
about.
adverse to it, but I don't want it in the neighborhood.
Okay. What we have talked about is, as far as hours, as Tim said, dusk to dawn. We're not thinking of lighting it in any way, so that it would close, and would post it to be closed at dusk.
But I think, OJ, I don't mean to interrupt you, but who's gonna be driving? Are we gonna have a cruiser drive by every hour? I mean, that is a concern. Because I moved here from southern New Hampshire where we have skate parks. And every other day, while the art is beautiful, there is graffiti art on these ramps. And while it might not, I mean, it's not something I particularly want to look at every day. So I just want to know, are we gonna beef up our police presence from dusk to dawn?
Yes, but there's no guarantee with that.
Well, there's no
I mean, it would definitely be a
As often as possible.
new spot that the police would want to monitor on a regular basis. Now, are we gonna say hourly? No, we can't, because the police are doing a million different things, but
Right.
on their cruise, when they're just out, cruising, looking, watching for, that would be a regular spot to go to. And again, it's a very visible location. If someone was out there with, spray cans of paint, I would hope that of all these residents that are driving by, that one of them would say, hey, that shouldn't be happening, and make a phone call. And I'm,
Part of that issue is a lot of the houses are empty most of the time, they're Airbnbs.
Yeah,
oh, I know that.
I mean, the two houses that you're
But if you
thinking
talk about
about,
all this traffic that's going up and down, I know a lot of it's Loon, but a lot of, some of that also involves locals. It's not like over here where virtually no one would drive by the riverfront park. That's either your destination or you don't see it. So this is gonna be more visible. I also want to respond to the question about the need or demand for this. In my opinion, that was a legitimate question in 2012 or whenever this started. Is there enough demand? Are people really gonna use this? This has been a 10-year push to get it to where we are now. There has been evidence of a lot of commitment from parents, kids, enthusiasts to get this done. If all of the excitement that came with the unexciting part of the whole process, which is planning and fundraising, if that continues, I can only say it will have to be a success. There's been, this isn't, 3 people trying to get their private skateboard park. This is a whole bunch of people, and many businesses have been involved in getting us to the point physically and financially to where we are now. And I have not seen the interest in this wane at all over really a 10-year process.
Who are you expecting to use this park?
I'm
Just residents? or
expecting
Anyone.
5-year-olds to 50-year-olds.
no, is it local?
Residents.
Is it local?
I expect it to be, again, I don't know, but I would expect it to be a lot of locals, because that's who's been the driving force behind this. But certainly as people find out about it, I expect that some visitors to the area, and I would think that'd be more the visitors who are invested in the area, who come here on a regular basis, second homeowners, or just frequent visitors. The people who are coming up for, 3 days for the summer and then going home for a year. Yeah, we might get some of them that are enthusiasts and stop by, but I don't see that being a big draw, nor do I see it being a big draw from the surrounding towns. I mean, Bethlehem's putting in their own, Plymouth has a nice one. I mean, they're not gonna come up here or down here to use our skateboard park, unless it's so phenomenal compared to Bethlehem or Littleton, but I don't, I just don't see that.
I'm asking, how big is this? I mean, I know the site, I can completely visualize the size of that. You're effectively talking about the car park, the tarmac area between the community centre car park, car lot, and the trees. So how much of that are you actually envisaging?
Right here.
40 by
120 was it?
Does that stay with the dimension?
See. It's, I know it on here is by 62 feet. Just to place it on the property.
The size of this room then?
Sure.
Size of a good sized house.
So I just. Do we don't know new firehouse and where that is?
There isn't going to be a new fire station, but there is a bond on a warrant to raise money for a new police station.
Is that still slated to go?
Yes, right. Oh,
All of us at air, we're gonna deal with that. And then the skate park and I mean, I don't want to be negative, but. We
I moved here because I enjoy the peace and the quiet. I've had to deal with 3 loud Airbnbs. Now, I didn't know that when I moved in, nobody's fault. We're deal with loud noises. So if I've got to have that, potentially a new police station and now a new skate park, that's a lot.
Jim?
Jim Welch here. I was born here. The town is growing. There's going to be noise. As far as the skateboard park being over there. I guess the biggest thing I'd be concerned is there gonna be a secure fence around it with a locked gate. And that would determine when this is open and when it's closed, so nobody can go in there at 2 o'clock in the morning with spray cans.
And all I have to do. Lost for
Insurance company dictate some concerns with, even though it's not a pool, but it's, essentially a cement structure that's concave. So I think there's a good possibility that our insurance company might mandate a fence around it, which at that point we would obviously, install one, but I don't think the original plan as of right now is construct one.
There was also a mention of cameras, the possibility of putting cameras up too, because there is power right there, the telephone poles are right there. So,
Jack?
One thing too that you should- and it's been talked about is the graffiti and what have you. Nothing can stop that. I don't care what you have. Look at the roads. You look at your bridge abutments, look at the stanchions that hold up the bridges. What do you see? Graffiti underneath the bridges. Thousands of cars go by there every single day. So there's no guarantee that that won't happen. I mean,
You're not building it.
Huh?
You can stop it by not building it.
Well, yeah, and we couldn't have any bridges and roads and we wouldn't have graffiti there either, I suppose. But the other thing looking at too, skateboarding, some kids that don't have finances to get involved in ski programs at Loon or what have you. Yes, we have the Kank, which is fantastic. But this is a summer activity that some families may not be able to afford to go on trips and what have you. So, the equipment is not that expensive. There's no ongoing cost. Yes, you need safety equipment, elbow pads, shin pads, knee pads, and a skateboard. But I know Kevin's gonna donate some of that, so, we don't have to worry about all of those things. But I guess you have to look at the end user. If it's used right, it's a success. If it's not, then something has to be done. But the towns, from its perspective, along with the public safety, i.e. police, will make sure that we try to do the best we can by our residents.
Jim?
There also, it was mentioned, the older kids, more experienced kids are gonna push the little ones out. I look at it at the other side of the picture. Those older kids are gonna be helping those little ones grow.
Yeah.
They're gonna be showing those little ones how to do what they're doing. More than pushing out.
that is pretty much, I've raised boys. And I've been in a ton of skate parks, and that's what happens. The bigger kids always help the little kids. I have never been to the hundreds of skate parks or hundreds of times to skate parks, not even kidding. They're all over the country, as a matter of fact. And the big kids always help the little kids, always. Just what they do.
And this is a different community. I know might not be used to this, but we have a K through 12 school. Okay, our kindergartners go to the same school as our seniors in high school. And it's the school that I went to. And
Me too.
it's a whole different environment when you have that as an ongoing presence with older kids and younger kids mixing together in the cafeteria together, on the playground together. And it's that same vibe that's going to be at the skateboard park, in my mind. Will there be incidences? Yes. Are there incidences at school? Yes. Are there incidences at the Kank Rec area?
Yes.
So it's not gonna be,
Incident
sanctity, but it will be another spot where older kids and younger kids learn from each other and protect each other. And yeah, they're gonna tease each other and pick on each other, or whatever too, but to me, that overall effect is positive, not negative.
Agreed.
Has due diligence really been done in the Kank
What do you mean?
Absolutely.
area?
What do you mean?
Could
You
you
use that
there's
space.
26 acres. I know you mentioned,
Oh.
that
It's been
there's
looked at several
26 acres
times.
there.
One of the biggest deciding factors of it is that it's not occupied year round. The Kank isn't, and when we shut down mid-March, this is when the ski slope shuts down right around St. Patrick's Day, pretty much every year. Nothing happens there again until the end of June, beginning of July, when day camp starts. So there's no daily there's no one on Forest Ridge. So it's very still want a skate park behind where nobody can police it, if you will. In day camp, while the kids are on the facility, it's closed to the public. It's like a school zone. It's a safe zone for those children. The camp has to be. So that no one can use the Kank at all, including a skate park if we put it there, while camp is in session all summer long. And then at the end of the summer, when the kids go back to school in August, nothing happens there again, September, October, November, December, until after Christmas. So again, nothing, there's no eyes on it. At the community center, year round, 5 days a week, there is childcare center, senior center, community center, the rec department at the community center. Eyes on it every single day, all day, and it's right on Pollard Road, where the police can drive by, or parents can drive by, or it makes way more sense than the Kank.
They're not there Saturday, Sunday.
I'm
They're
sorry,
not there Saturday, Sunday.
I'm sorry, who's not,
No
Well,
one
the
in the
names that we
center on
mentioned, there's no one
Saturday.
in the center on Saturday and Sunday.
correct?
Yeah.
That's correct.
You
But it's
said
still
every day
open
there's
where-
somebody there with eyes on, and they aren't there every day.
I just said 5 days a week. I'm sorry, did I misspeak and say 7? I did say 5 days, and 5 days a week, which is better than the 0 days a week at the Kank.
Yes.
Have you not just contradicted yourself regarding your first choice, and that was down by the river where there was nobody, and that was your preferred site?
Which would be wide open and
Just
policeable.
Yeah, you're right. I think that the site over at the community center was the better site all along. One of the reasons for choosing the riverfront area was that,
Saturday.
well, it wasn't in the neighborhood, but it also was an impetus to get that, park moving ahead with some grant money,
Yeah, because it was supposed to be developed a long time ago. We were supposed to have walking trails. We were supposed to have a nice park for the children. I mean,
Agreed.
what can we do as a community to kind of get that facilitated?
It's
Do
gonna
we-
cost
do-
us $1 million just
Well, I was
to
gonna
clean
say,
up.
is that what we need to do? We need to raise $1 million to get this cleaned up?
we either need to raise $1 million or wait until we get a Brownsfield grant and then raise a portion of $1 million.
And how long would that take?
Years.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. Let's not,
Well, the estimate
we
was
know that
years.
we would get in line and we do want to, and one thing we need to still talk about is what we need to do as far as additional design and additional engineering and grant writing to get to a point where we're at least in the line. But that's another conversation we've not yet had, but our plan is to move ahead with that. Jim?
It would be the taxpayers cleaning that up, that $1 million. As a taxpayer of Lincoln, there was a lot of stuff in Lincoln that could use that $1 million versus cleaning that up. Because it's all that skateboard grant is to build the skateboard, period.
Correct.
It's nothing to clean that up. And maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but who knows down the road, 15 years, 20 years, the state may say 4 lanes on Main Street. That'd be a perfect place for overflow parking, municipal parking. So people can park there, it's almost the center of town. they can walk up and down all the stores on Main Street. Because if the state ever does that, where are people gonna park? That'd be a perfect place over there.
And you know, once you start digging, you never know what you're gonna hit under there.
Right,
Because it seems like every time somebody has investigated, we found more and more contaminated soil, more debris under there, ashes still that contain contaminants in it. So you don't know. I mean, I think it was a low estimate between 800 and a million, 800,000 and $1 billion. And again, you know, there's at least a 20%, if you get a brownfield grant, there's at least, I think, a 20% local match to that. But there's no guarantee, and it could be multiple years that we're trying. And we know the skate park committee that has raised these funds or got the grant has a certain time frame. If they don't, the money reverts back to the grantor. And, you know, that's not fair to them. So, you know, you're caught between a rock and a hard place here. But I think this board, and I won't speak for my colleagues, but I think we found that site down on Paula Road at this time is the best site possible to do it in a timely fashion without a major impact. You know, as far as tax dollars go in this town.
Jim?
you know, there are some areas over there, I've talked to backhoe operators, the track backhoes. They could not go through it because the machine was sinking so much. So who knows how far down we're gonna have to go. There's a few areas over there, the track machine backhoe could not go through. I talked to the operator that was running it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
How many people are on this skateboard committee, and I'd like to know more about this? The history of it, who's on it?
I can't tell you what year it started. I don't know if you remember.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was,
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Kevin?
oh, sorry, my name is Kevin Bell. I'm a member of the skate park committee. Me and two other dads in our communities formed a group. Saw a need. It's been a topic of discussion. Building a skate park in this town, from what I know, has been a topic of discussion for
20-something years.
decades, possibly.
Yes.
And in the 2013, we first had our kind of first get together to talk about it. And we started trying to form our semblance. We met with the Lincoln Woodstock Friends of Recreation, who we were able to kind of be umbrellaed under and began to raise money under the Friends of Recreation kind of umbrella. We've been hosting fundraisers and applying for grants since 2000 and, sorry, I go by my son's birthday, so it's the 13th.
The same thing.
Or excuse me, 2013 when we started. And to OJ's point earlier, we have had tremendous success in local fundraising. Every event, the majority of our events are very well attended, very well supported. Not only by locals, but former residents of the area who have kind of put in their own effort at skate park during their time here, and have been pleased to the amount of energy we've had. We have been awarded a grant by the Tony Hawk Foundation, which is the gold standard of skate park kind of relevance
Right.
in globally. And most recently, we have another grant come by a global skateboard manufacturer, or say apparel manufacturer, who has seen promise in our project and is willing to kind of finish the bill to make sure we achieve our goal. And it is easy to look at just the skate park committee and say it's me and two other dads that have been working on this, but we are the tip of the spear. We have had so much support, and while this change of location, it's a change, right? We did a lot of exercises around that other location, and we saw positive movements, but ultimately it's really no clear timeline of when it would come to fruition. So based on the location, the availability of that location, and the commitment to all of the people we have who have supported us over the last almost 10 years. I think that the community center is the best location. And so does my two other committee members.
Well, I don't.
So just out of curiosity, is there no area in Woodstock that can be? Because you said it was, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Kevin.
Kevin. You said it was, you have people from Woodstock as well. Is there no place maybe that we could look at? In Woodstock, if it's a group effort? I'm just asking the question.
Well, the town of Lincoln can't look at it.
No, I mean, come on, we're Linwood, I mean, we're friends, we're.
Before you went to that, I just wanna, when do we start doing this? 27 years ago, because he's 37 now. There were a couple of kids that are about 10 years old or so that really tried to get a skate park going. They were, I think, middle school at the time, so it didn't really go too far, but they put a lot of effort in for more than a year to get a skate park in, and they did make a donation. It wasn't a whole lot, but this has been something that the kids in this town have been wanting for at least 27 years. So it hasn't been just the 10, there's been interest for at least 27 years. And then as far as the Woodstock location, I'll let you address that.
I can't say that we've gone and looked at sites and really evaluated places, but there was no place that came up as a logical area that would fit in with something else that was already there. I mean, there isn't a school, there isn't a community center, there isn't a recreation area, there's a swimming area, but nothing made sense just in the general scope. Is there anyone online? I know that there's some people visiting us. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, OJ, I know I'm not in the butter to it, but I've heard some pretty good comments tonight that I think the Board of Selectmen ought to consider as making mandatory to this project. That would help alleviate some of the concerns of the abutters, and I think help the town. I think the fence is probably one of the best ones I've heard. It gives you a definite lock-in, lock-out point. The cameras are also a definite, so if people start using graffiti, we have cameras down at, you have cameras at Town Hall, you have cameras at solid waste facility. I'm not sure, but probably, are there any over the community building? But I mean, you have some. And last but not least, I think a firm commitment from the Board of Selectmen to handle any and all concerns from abutters. And I think those three things, I think will go a long way towards making sure that, that the town's committed to this project and show that. But I think they all need to be mandatory as part of this project so that no one gets left behind. The users of it can still use it, but the abutters will be protected. And I think when you do a project that might impact people like this, I think you need to look at that. That's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Hey, and also, just so you know, your volume is breaking up quite a bit when you're coming on. I don't know if it's just my computer or I know you were having issues tonight, but you're only hearing every second or third word.
Thank you for that. Tara, is that the same for you? Okay.
Yeah, but I thought it was on my end, so I plugged it in.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry about that. We'll have to look into that, but anyone else online want to contribute? All right, anyone else? We are going to have a second hearing on this 2 weeks from tonight. We have heard your concerns. I think Paul made some good comments there that we definitely need to consider. The comments you made and anything that will mitigate some of the concerns. as we make decisions. So with that, I want to thank everyone and close the public hearing. We still have public comment on anything else later in the meeting. But for this issue, we're closing the public hearing. The next thing we have on the agenda is the warrant for the town meeting. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
All right. So I just wanted to get the board's consensus of
Thanks, Kevin.
just the sequence that I put the warrant articles in. I haven't finalized it in DRA's web portal yet. Because I didn't want to, if we're going to change the sequence of any of the warrant articles, it needs to be reflected in the 737, the budget form as well. So I didn't want to formalize anything until I knew that we all were kind of on the same page with the sequence of the warrant articles. I know that Robert Weatherall is coming in on the 27th to go through the warrant articles with us, so we can then discuss logistics on some of the articles maybe being tabled until we review the results of the previous articles that pertain to it. We are required to put both the bond articles first on the warrant. So you'll see the first warrant article is the town officials, the second and the third are land use ordinance changes. So the first one that we'll vote on a town meeting that evening is article number 4. So I put the Route 3 water main upgrade first for the 2.2 million, and then followed by the new police station for the 6 million.
Perfect.
Directly following those, I did the kind of backup warrant articles if those bond articles were to fail. So I then followed it with the Route 3 engineering and the new police station.
We'll probably table those and
well, but I kind of wanted to put them, address it, that we'll wait to vote on Article 6 and Article 7 until we have the results of Article 4 and Article
then there's the
5.
budget. That's good.
And then there's the operating budget, which is the next biggest item. Following that will be collective bargaining, the 2 collective bargaining warrant articles, the school resource officer, and then capital reserves going down. Which we have, 20 or so capital reserves. And then at the very end, I have the police cruiser highway block grant, the cemetery record retention software, and to modify our veterans tax credits. Essentially,
Can we put 22, which is the fire truck and equipment,
yes,
with or right after 12? So they are together. They both have to do with fire truck.
sure.
How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, that might make sense.
Yeah. Gives it a little more.
There might be
transparency too.
questions on one that relate. to the
Why
other.
they're 2 separate
Yeah,
articles
right.
and why they don't.
Yeah, and
Okay.
one we're funding out of fund balance.
Correct.
The
No,
buy
to be raised by-
immediately, and
right.
one we're putting money aside, as we always do for.
Future purchases.
Normally, yeah.
No, I think that's a good idea.
So just put 22 as
Number
13 and move everything up one.
Yep.
Thank you.
The veterans tax credit, there was a House bill that changed the veterans tax
Okay.
credit. So essentially, we have to vote on them again to re-adopt the, essentially the cost figures that we've already established at town meeting last year.
Right,
But
right.
because there was a new House bill that would revert it back to the original amounts, we have to vote on
Those are together too, so.
and those are
that's perfect,
together,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Awesome. No, I think it looks good.
Why is there a question mark after the $750 that was tax credit? Article 34.
shall the town readopt the optional veterans tax credit in accordance with RSA for the annual tax credit on residential property of $750?
So is 33. Yeah, they're both questions.
They're both questions. Shall the town readopt
Okay,
it?
that is a question.
Yeah.
It's not, got nothing to do with the 750.
Has nothing to do with the $750.
Okay.
Essentially, we're just ratifying the votes that we made last year because of the new House bill.
All right. Thank you.
I mean, there's a lot of articles, so any way you slice it, you know.
Right.
You all good with that?
Yeah, no, I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Okay, so I will finalize these most likely tomorrow, and I will get them out of draft format, and we'll need signatures from the selectmen and also the budget committee on the budget. So I'll
Okay.
shoot out emails to everyone when they're ready to go and stop in and sign them.
I'll bring the kids in to see you.
Perfect. All right.
All right,
Okay,
let's
with
move on to
changes.
this town manager's report.
Okie dokie, we got a couple different things today. You can just ignore my first update on the town manager's report. So we were notified last week that Granicus was ready to go, up and running. They thought they had corrected or fixed all the bugs in the web portal. And so I asked our chairman to test out the website, and it failed when he attempted to register short-term rental.
Fantastic.
So we are meeting with them. The strange thing is we sent it out to a couple people who we've been staying in contact with to try to test the website. And it appears OJ was the only one out of those people that we sent it to that couldn't register their short-term rental. But we were notified today, a couple over the weekend that were unable to too. So obviously the problem has yet to be resolved. I have a Zoom meeting with them at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning to try to go through the process because they are claiming that they cannot replicate the problem on their end. So
Seriously.
And we're holding payment.
we are holding payment. Yes, correct. So I will hopefully have a better update for you come the next meeting. But we were this close, but still far away. So that is Granicus. Wood legal update, there is an in-person hearing scheduled for Monday, March 13th at 11 a.m. in Haverhill regarding the town's motion to limit and exclusion of evidence. So Jason says it's not imperative that we are there in person. I didn't know if the board would like me to be in attendance that day, or if we are okay with just Attorney Dennis handling it, or if someone else wanted to
How does
go.
Attorney Dennis feel?
He said
Either
there's
way.
no need to be in person if, unless we felt imperative.
I mean, we would only be there as observers, because I believe in these motions, it's the two attorneys.
It is,
Period.
it is, correct.
So. Yeah, no, I don't think we need to send you as an
Okay.
observer.
Okay,
Jason's gonna come back and tell us
he's gonna give us an update of what happened, right,
the result was.
okay. Awesome, okay, moving on, the chiefs and I met with LBA, the architects on the building, on the new police station regarding the new budget or the new proposed budget of $6 million. So we worked to reduce the square footage of the building and discuss potential modifications to the building that could reduce the overall cost, such as materials and exterior siding and, those type of things. We meet again this Wednesday at 1 p.m. If the board would like to be involved with that. I can send you the Zoom link to review the new site plan. I just received the new site plan this afternoon, late this afternoon. It's about 13,000 price point, and then with a construction cost of 5.2 million. With the additional 700 and change or 800 for essentially outfitting of the building or anything that we would have to purchase to, some moves to move,
Like antennas or.
To move antennas
I mean, there's some
to.
costly things besides building the building, but anyway.
Right, agreed. So we anticipate, we've asked LBA to put on their calendars to present the new design at our next selectmen's meeting on the 27th. So we can get some public input and we can get our eyes on a new site plan, land site plan and also new building plans. So we hopefully will have something that we can then start distributing to the public and, raising awareness on. I will also invite the building committee, obviously, on the 27th, once they confirm that they will be in attendance. So,
Okay.
okay, South Peak Water Tank. We met, as OJ had mentioned earlier, we met on Thursday with representatives from the Forest Service, the District Ranger, a few of their resource specialists. Scott from Longfellow was there, as well as Jack, OJ, and I, Nate Hadaway, our Public Works Director, and our engineer for the project, Sam Kenny. So I think overall, the project, I think we've come to a consensus on the project, and there needs to be some small modifications done to the original proposal. They've identified a smaller, flatter area adjacent to where we are proposing that they think would be a better construction site for us. It would require us to have less kind of excavating and filling, cut and filling, which we didn't have any issues with that modification. A major sticking point for them is the access point to the water tank, whether it needs the permanent access and the temporary access needs to be in the same location. It is close to Boom Run. So they were entertaining the idea of us using the ski trail as a permanent access to the site, which I guess brought up a couple concerns on having that be our permanent access point, and if it was a 12-month out of the year ability for us to access that. So I guess some right now, the next steps are our engineer is getting together with the private developer, Mark, to identify the new location and have the new location surveyed. We are also making some modifications to the roadway, which would allow us, rather than to have switchbacks the whole way on the third switchback, we would connect to a skid trail that they have currently, which would cause less disturbance to the area, which is, we don't think, a major modification that will need to be made either. So overall, I think the modifications that they're requesting are doable and are not going to add a huge cost expense to the overall project. If anything, it might save us a little bit of money, not having to disturb as much, area or much land. I guess the downside to this is that they did let us know that whenever we resubmit, we're going to have to resubmit our application with the new surveys and the new access point. When we do resubmit, it could be a 6 to 12 month period before we get final approval. So we asked them, how do we expedite that process? And essentially the only way to do so would be for us to hire our own private consultants to do some of the federal NEPA requirements, the Heritage Bureau, the Cultural Resources Bureau, the botany, the wildlife, some of these specialists, that these special requirements that need to be signed off on by a scientist in that field. We will have to do some of those reviews on our own dime to expedite the process. Leading into my next bullet point, one good thing is that we have applied for a strategic planning grant, I believe, every year for the past 5 or so years for this water tank to get some money for the strategic planning. We were finally approved this year in the amount of $50,000. Nice. So Sam Kenny from Weston Sampson reached out to DES last week and asked, can we use this 50 grand to pay for some of these soil scientists, these specialists in their field for the review process. And we got a word back this morning that they said yes.
Oh,
Right.
good.
So,
Excellent.
so we can use that 50 grand to hire some of these consultants to make it less of a burden on our, tax, responsibilities, or what will end up, our share will be, to kind of get this ball rolling. So, I don't know if Jack or OJ, if you want to chime in on anything else.
I think that's a huge win. Because the way the NEPA works is these Forest Service guys have multiple things in front of them.
Mhm.
And they take who's ever first in line and spend all their time in that, and then they move to the next one. And what we're attempting to do is, I don't use the word bypass, but relieve them from doing the research work, hire someone to do the research work, and then all they have to do is review it. So they might not have to physically go out there, they just have to read the report and make sure that they agree and that there aren't any things missing or wrong or whatever. So the review process is all that they have to do, not the research. That should shorten that time up from 12 months. I mean, it's not gonna be 1 month.
No.
But anything to shorten that is, it's a benefit to the town. It's a benefit to the Northern Borders grant that we got, that we keep pushing off. And it's a benefit to our partner at South Peak, who has agreed to wait on building the required tank and instead pitching in the money to help build this tank. So it's a win-win. And to have the that grant help pay for it is obviously
Fantastic.
It's great, yeah, and I really think I think having, I know it was probably well overdue, but I think having a meeting of the minds and getting all the stakeholders in one room was very productive.
Good.
Because I think we are all on the same page, we all know exactly what we need to do to move forward. We've come up with an outline of what needs to be done next. Scott from Longfellow, the private developer or his representative. We've had multiple emails over the last 4 days of who's gonna do this, what the town's gonna be responsible for, what the private developer is gonna be responsible for.
Excellent.
We've already got a list of resources for the specialists that Loon gave us. So the ball is rolling at a much faster speed than I guess it had previously. But it's still, we all have to have realistic expectations that it's still it could be end of year before we the approval. But the Forest Service did, they did inform us that they would not be vesting as much time and energy in making this a viable project if they thought it was going to ultimately fail. So although we cannot get final approval at this stage in the game, they think it has a strong chance of, making it to the end essentially.
Yeah. And I agree that this was really a key part of this process, especially some of the discussions, each of these specialists are looking at this project from their little narrow specialty, whether it be, soils or
Water or
water. But like the soil, he was the one who wanted to disturb the least amount of land and wanted that looping thing instead of the 2 more switchbacks. And it all made sense. But he also had some other ideas. But then we said, well, if we bring the roadway out here, now we still need a straight line
For the
to put the water line in. So we're still gonna be digging up this whole area. If we put the road in that area, it actually reduces.
Now we're disturbing 2 areas versus
2
one.
areas.
Right.
Pretty far away from each other at one point.
Right.
Anyway, the discussion was good because it helped bring in the different points of view all together. Like, okay, we can build over here, but we're still gonna rip this all up to put in water and electric.
Right.
Well, let's not do that then. And I think we left all pretty much on the same page, or at least in a good understanding with each other. So
Agreed. And I think it identified what was important for each one of those specialists, what was important for the soil specialist, what was important for the water specialist, what was important for, and what was important for the town. We needed 40,000 square feet and, we had certain things, but we were agreeable or amenable to changing those things as long as we could meet our needs as a whole. So I think, like I said, it's slightly disappointing on the timeline, but I think I think the meeting was very productive and I
Yes.
think we're all on the same page and I think the ball's gonna roll faster now.
And I gotta say, I had to leave that meeting a little bit early.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, Sam did a great
I
job
know.
introducing that.
Mhm.
And he basically said, this is what the town needs, you know, and talked about square footage, elevation.
12:30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and said that that's all we're really looking for, and this is what we think is
And
the best.
permanent access, right?
And he said, this is what we think is the best, but we had to discuss it, and I think that left them. I just think it set the tone of, we're not trying to shove this down your throat, this was our best guess as to what fit in. Let's talk about it, and it was a great discussion, so he did a great job.
Agree.
Excellent.
Oh, you know, my 2 cents, I think Nate did a great job representing us what he
Agreed.
needs, because ultimately the town's gonna own it. We need year-round access to it, God forbid
Right.
something should happen there, so, you know, switchbacks and lines and what have you. I would have hoped that Moon would have had somebody there. I did put a call in Friday to Erica Dickman, who, you know, from the Forest Service that was there, and she's the liaison with Moon. She did call me back today. And basically what we've heard here, I want to see if she'd send me out something that says expedited by doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Take that to the stakeholders, i.e. Loon and Bogosian, and say, okay, folks, just, you know, stop this, stop that. Let's cross off the dots, cross the Ts when we get them finished, so that we can move forward, you know, together, not unilaterally. What's your best interest with? Because like when they started talking about access over Boom Run in the wintertime, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen. So, you know, we have to get the Forest Service attuned to what we, the town, need here, so. anyway.
And I don't think they would have liked it in the summertime either, us having to build a road on top
No.
of this, you know, the ski trail. I mean, I'm sure that probably wasn't ideal for them either.
No.
No, and especially with that little connecting trail off of Boom Run, I don't even know if it has a name.
Right.
But there's snowmaking there, so now,
And it's in the homeowner's backyard.
Right.
yeah, it's in their backyard. We can't dig up the snowmaking. Now we're gonna cut down more trees behind these $1-million houses.
I'm not gonna fly.
No. One of the things they were asking for was just a letter that said no,
Yeah, Scott,
not really, but
I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Miccile. McGilly. He was going to provide that for us by this week.
okay, so he's working on that.
He's working on that. He's working.
Okay,
on
I
it.
just wanted, didn't know who follow up.
Sure.
He's
In,
doing that.
in your packets, I did,
Yeah.
Sam Kenny did put a bulleted points of who's the next steps, who's responsible for what, just so we all know kind of where we're going from here on out. But like I said, Scott chimed in this morning. He had already reached out to Loon and had Loon's contacts for whoever they use for their specialists. We also need to get, because it's within Loon's service area, we have to get the approval from Loon in the new spot, the relocation in a new spot. Horizon says they're gonna be out there to resurvey that spot within the next few weeks, so we're hoping that things start moving a little bit faster.
Okay.
And I was contacted that day, ironically, on my way back by President Loon, the Westwood homeowners, what's going on, Mr. Smith. And, you know, they're having their annual meeting, I think, in the next week or two. And so they were looking for an update, so I did the best I could to give an update.
It will require us to do a new contract with Weston Sampson, to kind of orchestrate all these different specialists. Sam was gonna put something together for me, and I haven't seen it yet, but he said it should be final.
Didn't he outline that in an email, just
email,
the
yeah.
parameters of it, not a real contract?
Not a real contract, yeah, correct.
All right, I say it because I saw that
Yes, he did,
email about there was step 1 and step 2. And
right. I haven't seen a cost figure to that yet, though.
there was an estimate in there.
Oh, there was?
Yeah. I'm thinking of it correctly.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else, because I know we're using them for the Route 3 water main as well, so I'm getting a little.
All right,
Okay, I'm not gonna go into much talk about the Loon traffic update because OJ went over it this at the beginning of the meeting, but I also think that was a a productive meeting as well with Loon. Unfortunately, DOT didn't have a representative, but I think overall, just the conversation amongst Loon and the town was, I thought, productive.
And when I talked with DOT on 2 occasions, they pushed it on to the Department of Public Safety, and the chief responded to them, and we got the machine. By the way, the guy's name there is Alan, Alan Wickstrom, Wickstrom.
WICK
STROM.
Okay. and an A. Okay. I was close.
That's okay, you saw my minutes, right? I think I spelled
Guy from Loon.
Alan incorrectly, question mark, and in parentheses from Loon. I didn't know. All apologies to Alec Wickstrom who attended our meeting, and we thank him.
Riverfront Park. So we also kind of briefly touched base on this while we were talking about the skate park, but just to give you an update on where that stands currently is Novus, who is the contractor that we hired to do the assessment work, had submitted their latest round of data to DES last week. The next step will be to meet with DES to discuss the site remediation strategies that are going to be proposed. Ray Corber suggests that after that meeting is complete, that we do a formal remedial action plan that would be submitted to DES. He thinks this will do 2 things for the town. One, it will capture the discussions that we have with DES and put on record what the town will be required to do for the remediation. That's number 1. Number 2 is he thinks it will improve the town's chances of obtaining a cleanup grant, because we would have a definitive scope of work and most likely a definitive cost, that would go along with it. So if we decide to go down that route, obviously it has to be in conjunction with Ray Corber and also Novus together creating that remediation plan. Total cost will be around $15,000, about 8 for Novus and or 7 for Novus and 8 for the grant application, right, for the grant application process. So I just wanted to get the consensus of the board, that is the direction we want to move into. We are proposing to put $30,000 into the Riverfront Park Capital Reserve at town meeting this year, so that would cover the costs and some. But I just wanted to confirm with the board before I did.
That's a good idea.
Green light.
This is what I was gonna, when I said that I read something about the.
Oh,
Oh, the price cost, yeah.
Yes,
Not the other one.
Yeah, all right.
and the Brownfield grants, 2023. What's the deadline for those grants?
This fall will be the one we'd apply for, yeah,
Okay,
November,
fall.
yeah.
So we've got plenty of time.
We got plenty of time, but it's a bear of an application and it's gonna be highly competitive, so we would need, I guess. We need the remedial action plan
Right.
to kind of give us a step.
Has the town, to the best of your knowledge, Demi or OJ, received any brownfields grant major in the past?
Well, we got
The assessment.
The
assessment,
assessment.
I mean,
That was
for remediation.
No,
No, not to my knowledge, the town itself, no.
I know that Riverwalk was involved with remediation brownfields,
Yes,
but I don't know what the town's role in that.
I don't know what the town's role is, but I do know that they mentioned us in their little brief blurb that the town of Lincoln successfully completed a Brownsfield, but I think it was, I don't know how much town involvement it was, or if it just was located within the meets and bounds of the town. Yeah.
What about the Burndy site?
That was Burndy though. That was, so I don't know if it was a brownfield grant or not. And that was,
That was before I was
yeah,
sort of,
it was a long time ago.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that they did mention us, that we had successfully done a cleanup, but I think it was.
Oh, no.
Paul might have some information, go ahead.
Well,
It was for where Gene's Playhouse was.
right. We know that, but do you know, was that a grant that the town received or did?
Oh, well, with the whitewater plant was?
Yes, the whitewater plant. Yep.
yeah, okay.
That was brownfields, right?
That was
And that was a
brownfield.
town project.
Yes.
Yes, yes, that was during time when Ted Sutton was here and they wanted to get Jean's Playhouse going in town, gave them the land, but they couldn't use it because of contamination and the town applied for the brownfield so they could get it going.
When do you
That's
think that,
right.
like, what, give me like an estimate on what year that was, Paul, just so I can.
Yesterday's, I can remember things that far apart, but not.
Like the
today.
nineties or like 2000s, the.
No.
Hang on, I think my wife might know.
Yeah, it might have been might have been 2001.
Jean says it might have been 2001.
Okay,
That's-
early 2000s.
That's closer than I could guess, so thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So we'll move forward and we'll go from there, I guess.
All right.
Okay.
Was there any other discussion about moving forward? That's basically $15,000 out of that capital reserve to really get us in line for what could be
We're hoping.
hundreds of thousands of dollars of cleanup grant funding.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yep, so Brownsfield, the cleanup grants, applicant may request up to 500,000 or up to 1 million or up to 2 million. So I think we would apply, obviously for the one, the max of 2 million or 1 million, depending on if we have a better definitive idea after this second round of assessment work is done through Novus, so.
sorry, I just Googled it. The current Jean's Playhouse building had their grand opening in July 2012.
yeah, but when was the
In the current building.
No, but
They
when was
did-
the white water
Plan
plant
before
removed? It was
that.
before 2012, but
Right,
it
right,
was
right. No, before that,
multiple
obviously.
years before that.
Yeah. Because they operated at the Governor's Lodge for 2 years after the mill was closed. They started in 1985 with the mill. And then when that was torn down, they went to the lodge Governor's Lodge for 2 years and then opened there in 2012, but it took a couple years to build, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably a few years before that, so,
All right,
yeah.
I'll look
Denise really close.
early 2000. I mean, it's
Yeah.
more just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
just so we
Yeah.
know kind of sequence, you know, and timeline. Are we okay with the front part?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last thing I have on, my town manager report is, so, I received a letter from the Pines HOA following the January 17th planning board meeting. The letter, they are requesting assistance in understanding whether construction will continue at the Pines, as there are 2 buildings, 4 units left unfinished. At this time, I don't really have an answer for them. You know, unfortunately, that is not a town-driven project. So I think it's more so that they just want to be kept in the loop with the status of the construction up there, if anything were to change. I did express to Kevin Berry that we haven't seen anything as of lately as to whether or not the buildings, you know, the foundations will be filled in and it would go back to a raw natural state, or whether their construction will continue. I just told them that if we were made aware of anything, that I could keep them in the loop. And I do know that we have received as of late this afternoon that the HOA, the Pines HOA had met with Mr. Yeager and Mr. Shepherd in regards to ownership and maintenance and inspection of the ponds. And they have come to a consensus in which the HOA will be assuming ownership of and the maintenance and inspection of that. So I believe they plan to come to the planning board at their next scheduled meeting to discuss that, and also because it weighs in with the release of the bond, essentially.
Right. Well, that's very good news.
It is good news. Like I said, that was a email I received from Mark Shepherd. But he had everyone CC'd on the email, including the Pines HOA. And so I can only take that as at face value that they have settled whatever dispute they had had over the ownership of the ponds.
It's hard up there because there are so many different entities. There's forest, there's just pines, there's the forest gardens and then forest.
Woodlands,
Woodlands, yeah.
Each little
Yeah.
hamlet has their own
Right.
association, and then
Let them know.
there's a master association.
Can I ask a question? I've been curious about this
Go ahead,
since
Carol.
the last meeting. But doesn't the town have any like jurisdiction on ordinance permits to like have like a time frame to where they start breaking ground? Like that they have to have a structure completed.
I think
Because
there's,
that whole section, I mean, there's been foundations that have crumbled over there because
Mhm.
there's not following through with these projects, and it's a hazard. I mean, not to mention the environmental impact. I mean, how can they guess that that pond up there will meet what it's designed for when those structures aren't even completed? They're not getting the full impact, you know, for release of that, you know, bond that they want. Couldn't the town enforce time frame on some of these projects?
Aren't building permits? for
building
1 year?
permits are good for 1 year and
You can get an extension.
in most cases, they get an extension. I think when it comes to like a planned development like that, essentially, they would argue that they had substantial completion.
That's the
And
term.
that's the, right,
Can there be some sort of clause where, I mean, if you start a foundation, you have to have that structure completed, framed, roofed, you know, whether or not the inside is complete is another whole ballgame, but I mean, the exterior completion should.
in a town with a building inspector, yes, I think
But we don't,
those
yeah.
things could be accomplished, but we don't have a building inspector. We have a code enforcement officer, so
Right,
essentially.
but we could still, I don't know why we couldn't put that into, and again, I think it might be a planning board issue, but
Maybe.
we'd need to
Well,
Change-
that's what I wanted to bring to the table.
change the land use plan that has a,
Yeah, our ordinances would have to change.
right, to
Yes.
put in an ordinance, it says, yeah, okay, you put in the foundation, X amount of time, you need to have it enclosed.
Mhm.
You're right, we as a town don't really hear about the inside,
Right, who
Right.
cares?
but, from an aesthetic point of view and an erosion point of view,
Yeah, the
we
safety.
do have
point
an
of
interest
view,
in
I mean,
the
those
outside.
empty foundation holes are, they're dangerous.
Well, we know that from the, I forget what the next section down is called, but below the pines.
Yeah.
Those foundations were in there for years,
Right,
they cracked and
yes.
broke apart and basically had
Done, right?
shoveled
I
out.
mean,
Is it one of
give them
those that
a year,
have
and
the
then we
deer
start,
carcass
you know, fee. I mean, every month that they're not done, they get a bill.
Well, it's a hazard for kids going around that live in the development, that come to visit the development, you know, kids want to
If they're
school.
gonna complete it, then they should put a big security fence around that. That's dangerous.
That'd be a good spot to put some graffiti, but, you know.
You know?
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just lack of pure, you know, lack of management skill there, I think, sorry. You know,
Well,
See, forest woods and forest gardens, they're not part of the.
sorry, I get off the.
No.
subject there.
No, I mean,
I'm curious
It's a
about.
good point. I mean,
I mean, and if they're not, then, you know, if you're not completed in a year, 18 months or whatever, then you get fined every month that building's not completed. I mean, it kind of,
we would need to adopt that as an ordinance.
I mean, it's a motivational.
Yeah.
right, we would need some legal counsel to
In-
ensure that, you know,
Any ordinance was written properly that it's enforceable.
right.
At this point, I would think that we'd still just be able to inquire. You know, not threaten, like, okay. These have been sitting here for years. And you know, do you have a plan? Finish them, or do you have a plan to demolish them, or? What, you know, granted, they're substantially complete if you count
The other units.
all the units.
Right.
Obviously, those units aren't substantially complete. They're,
I drove up there just to see what it was like the other day after the meeting, and I was just like, what?
yeah.
You know,
I think
they
the
did it.
issue right now is who's in control of Mount Coolidge construction, because technically. I think there's some confusion as to, I guess, who's steering that ship right now as, you know, since Mr. Elliott's passing. So, but I mean, I don't disagree. I think it's, you know, an avenue that can be looked into. Unfortunately, it would have to be something, you know, like OJ had mentioned, that would have to be in our ordinance for us to enforce it. So, I mean, maybe that's something the planning board wants to look into for adoption at next year's town meeting, potentially.
We can inquire without an ordinance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and that might be a good first step in discussion starter and let them tell us, you know, what is the status of the entities and, you know, is this gonna be tied up in court for 3 years? I mean, if that's the case, tell us.
Right.
You know,
The other thing too would be to get it in writing, a formal request, maybe even through our attorney. To say there's been some concern on the part of the town and the residents therein, and we'd like something in writing, so then we have a definite plan moving forward if there had to be a legal action taken.
And if they don't comply within a certain period of time, then you can hit them with fines or.
well, we can't do that without an ordinance. We can inquire. And then hopefully cooperatively work together. Like seriously, if they come back and say, well, we're tied up in court, it's gonna be 3 years. I'm just making this up. I have no idea.
Right.
Okay, what can we do in the next 3 years? Can we put a fence around it? Can you?
Silly.
You know,
I mean, they were worried about kids playing in that pond and drowning. It's like, what about those foundations? They could
Exactly.
fall in there and crack their noggin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just more dangerous.
Yeah, make it secure.
Teach your kids. to
And
swim.
there's equipment just sitting there also. And again, I don't know whose it is, or if there's disputes over who owns, I don't even know what's going on, but maybe just the inquiry so they can let us know what's going on.
Yeah.
Would be a good first step.
We can try, that's all we can do.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the letter should come from an attorney, it looks like we're looking to strategize a legal pursuit. If the letter just comes to town, like, you know.
Right.
We're concerned and we just want to know.
I think it's a good first step because,
From the town?
like I said, there are many moving parts and many hands
Yeah.
in the pot,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
It seems as if we get a different response from a different person who's ever chosen to respond at that time. So I think we need to, I think a general inquiry from the town in regards to the status of those 2 units is a first kind of stepping point in the right direction, and then we can, I guess, go from there
Yeah.
if we aren't satisfied or if it falls on us. Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I'm assuming you're going to respond to this saying, I have no idea.
I'm in contact with Kevin.
We understand,
yeah.
we get it, but we don't know either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this is more so just him as a follow-up, as he was, you know, he was one of the gentlemen who represented the HOA at our meeting last month. I think it's more just, you know, having them be involved in the conversation and in part of the loop, you know.
Right. Awesome.
And in the planning board will hear more about the ponds and whatnot, I believe that they're
Our hope was that they
would resolve it amongst each other.
forward with a resolution that they all agreed to, and it sounds like they have. So
Sounds like that,
That's
yeah.
ideal. Right. And that's it.
That's it, that's all I got.
Take notes of it, so. Jack, did you have anything?
No, sir.
Tammy?
I'll agree to that, so yeah.
Well, let me,
There's a couple things that I'd like to.
a couple of topics I wanted to bring.
Right, you go ahead. I'll do
Before we
that.
bring
I'll
up
go ahead.
abatements
Okay.
and stuff like that. Let's put it back
Yeah,
here.
you go.
All right. We had discussed applying for a planning board grant for someone to look at the town ordinances related to housing.
Yes.
Have we found someone to do that?
So we, Carol and I had conversations with the Invest New Hampshire people. They do not feel that we are at the phase 3 stage where they would award us money for just revisions to the LUPO. They would like us to participate in a full assessment, a community engagement program with representatives from UNH and Invest New Hampshire to do a full-blown community, essentially investment program where we would have to have public hearings and public forums to gauge the feedback about what people's thoughts, needs, wants, concerns are with workforce housing. Before they would award us funds for the actual regulatory audit. So that would require commitment from the planning board and for them to designate a community engagement planner and to hold public hearings and do surveys and community outreach. So to be quite frank, Carol and I had some concerns on how that process would take place and who would be taking charge of that process and how we would move forward. So we are kind of in a holding pattern until I guess we were hoping that the planning board could weigh in on whether they were prepared to take on those roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
I thought some of that work had already been done based on.
We tried to explain that with North Country
with North Country
Council.
Council. I mean,
We-
the meeting that I attended up there, they had all the stats. all the
I
needs.
sent them copies of everything.
Yeah.
I've sent them copies of the NCC report. I sent them copies of the deeds. They were all included. But they felt that we didn't have strong enough community engagement prior to our regulatory audit, what they're calling a regulatory audit.
Didn't we hear from Kayla Tavares from NCC that they had some money and they could get that person for us? I was under that impression that she said that early on in one of the meetings that we had here.
I don't remember that. I mean, it's quite possible that she said that, but it's still gonna require a commitment from the planning board or a ad hoc group to be our community engagement committee and would have to go through the motions that Invest New Hampshire would like us to go through prior to them giving us funds just to hire a consultant to change the ordinances essentially.
Okay, I'm not sure that the planning board would go for that, but I think it's worth. We have to let them know,
Yes,
they voted to have us.
to go,
apply for the
right,
grant.
right.
We've got some information, let's feed that back to the planning
And
board
then they can make a,
and let them make the decision, the wording of the grant description
Mhm.
sounded like that helping the town revise their ordinances was a central part of this. I didn't understand that there needed to be all, hearings and public, I mean, obviously you're gonna have to have public hearings to change the ordinances,
Right.
but I thought that came after, not before.
agreed, I
So-
think we were all, both Carol and I were slightly taken aback, because we thought we had, a solid ground to stand on. We had, North Country Council's report, we had this
Right.
ad hoc committee
Right.
that is made up of business owners in town, and, we thought we had kind of covered that portion of it, but Invest New Hampshire felt differently.
We'll bring that back to the
Planning board. and-
planning board and. See what their preference is. I mean, this is definitely in their jurisdiction.
Right.
We requested that they talk about it. and
Right.
Do it, but anyway,
Yes. And I can get you, I will make sure Carol has the information as to what we would be required to participate in the community engagement plan. I do know it's a multi-day, UNH is involved. It's like a series of classes and strategies and whatnot. But I'll make sure that Carol has that, so at least the planning board knows exactly what they are or not getting themselves into.
Excellent.
Gonna be interesting is to see if they've done this with multiple towns before.
I don't think they have, because this is part of the 50 million from Invest New Hampshire.
Right,
This is
right.
brand new funds for brand new.
I'm just wondering, I
essentially.
mean, this would be a good project to work with Woodstock on,
Sure.
you know, look at, I mean, because it's our community that
Right.
has this need. And it's the community, Lincoln Woodstock, that will really provide a solution, or work towards a solution. And it might involve property here, property there, money from us, money from them.
Some sort of joint effort.
Joint
Yeah.
effort, you know, and if it's a matter of hiring a consultant, you know, if. It probably wouldn't cost that much more to look at both communities and have public hearings open to both towns.
Right.
And go through the process once as a joint thing. Again, we'd have to talk to Woodstock.
We are scheduling a joint meeting coming up. Can we put this on the agenda?
First of all, let's see if our planning board doesn't want to move forward with it, then no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need commitment from
I
the
agree.
planning board, because it's gonna require them
Yeah.
to go through some specific motions,
Gotcha.
unfortunately.
Okay.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
The only other thing I had was, the rec department is running that Sunday afternoon pickleball over at the high school. I've had numerous people, the turnout is phenomenal. I've never seen a broader range of people show up for an event. I mean, there's been over 30 people every
That's
week.
fantastic.
People who play all the time and they get on the owl's nest, and people who come for their first time and don't know what paddleball is. Which is more of the category that I fell in. They've come and asked, okay, the high school is great for the winter time. Would the town consider a facility for the summertime? So just to throw out there, one option would be if the town wanted to include this in a capital reserve for either the county rec or the community center or the riverfront park to put in pickleball courts in the longer term. I think that would be a good thing to start planning for now.
Now, having never played pickleball,
Yeah.
is that something we could do outside, an outdoor pickleball?
In
Don't you mean?
the summertime, oh, yeah.
What does it involve? Is it
Like
like,
a platform.
It's a tennis court. Tennis court.
Okay,
court,
okay.
So,
Okay, I think you can put 3 of them on the sides of a tennis court. Or at least 2.
Nice.
I know that the village has tennis courts that
They
are
use,
crumbling. And I don't know if that's something that you guys can work out with the town and the village to maybe incorporate and upkeep. Maybe one of their courts to play.
yeah, they've got the clay courts. I don't think they're using the clay courts half as much as
I
they
think
use.
there's like maybe one or 2 that they still.
Yeah,
maintain.
and they have like 6 courts. I used to play regularly over there.
Right, but there's so many that are just sitting there, useless, wasted space.
well, that's my, in the short term. I mean, obviously, we do something in Riverfront Park, that's years down the road, or even community center, whatever. To save up the money to do it. You know, in the short term, like in a few months, could we work out a deal with either the village or one of these other facilities that has multiple tennis courts and see if we can, you know, use their space and provide the nets and equipment and markings
Mhm.
to have a pickleball, and maybe it's a shared thing, like if whatever, XYZ Resort said, yeah, we can use one of their tennis courts, but they get to use it, you know, this times, and we get to
Oh,
use it
yeah.
those times, or, you know,
Open area of the beacon too.
well, that's, you mean inside.
Yeah.
I think it'd be the outside when people want, I mean, honestly, in the summertime, I don't wanna play indoor sports, unless it's raining out, I wanna be outdoors, that's why I live out here.
Right.
And I think that's more of the people who go there would want to be outside. And with all the tennis courts in town, I think
Funny, right?
someone would say, you know, if you put the pickleball nets there and let our guests play on them. We're like,
Forest Ridge already has, but
several places already have,
Yeah.
I mean, Jim
Yeah.
Park, Horse Ridge, et cetera. Paul?
Yeah, you have two right out back of town hall that are grown up. There's a fence around them. Maybe you could approach, I don't know who owns those two, but you might be able to talk to them. As you go down the South Peak Road,
Yeah, on the,
Yeah,
you know which ones I'm talking about before you go into,
when the lakes,
yes.
I think it's the links there, yeah.
but it's right across from the Links and River Green, and I don't
all
know,
grown in, yeah.
they are grown in, I'm not sure, that might be like a,
Too
Well,
much?
it's just Average, Google says, the cost to build a tennis court regulation double size, average is about 60,000. Some can be as low as 30,000 and others can approach near 100,000. So that's what it would cost to use those. The ones that are all grown up, we'd have to redo the whole thing. But I wonder if it's something we can incorporate in, and or around the skate park when it goes in. I mean, if you're doing the dirt work over there anyway.
Bill, you already heard. Maybe if we got the neighbors, that are against the skateboard park to play pickleball, maybe they'd say, we'll.
do both.
We heard from 2 of the 17 abutters, so hopefully next week, or the next in 2 weeks, we'll hear from the rest of them.
I know Chester likes the idea of that.
You like what?
Chester, he likes the idea of having a skate park over there.
Chat does, yeah, yeah.
Well, I know the Kellys have spoke
Yeah.
in favor of it as well, so.
Mhm.
And
So,
I know there's
But
one
anyway-
abutter that's all for it, the one that's directly across from it.
you know, I'm looking for a decision obviously on that tonight, but
Yeah.
you know. It's something that we could do, I'd like to see two forks. Long-term that the town owns and operates, whether it be Riverfront Park or somewhere else, and short-term, like this summer, can we just make an arrangement with someone and.
I think, I mean.
I think Tara would be all for it too, yeah,
Tara might have some ideas.
yeah,
I think the village, the lack of usage over there, you know, the way tennis is falling off over there, and they've got the facilities. You know, I mean, we might even start with Mr. Bartley.
Paul and Karen would be good.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Good idea.
let's move forward with that. Are those, are the ones they're not using usable? Like, are we talking about, we have to like
They probably have to be resurfaced.
resurfaced?
I mean, there's a couple of them that are clay that are not being used. I know that for a fact.
But would they need to be resurfaced?
To what extent, I don't know.
Okay,
maybe you could just compact them, you know, with those compactors. I don't know, if they're clay and not.
I don't know if you can play pickleball on clay.
I have
Yeah,
no
I
idea.
No.
Well, that's-
Seems that Paul, can you play pickleball on clay?
There's actually two on top of the annex building at the Mount Club, might make a good location. When they built that, they built it to park on. And it was supposed to be tennis courts in the summer, parking in the winter.
That's right.
Might be
Alright.
something to talk to Lou, because they, you know, as far as a private company joining in and getting a use and making a few bucks out of it, they might want to do that. And that will get you started.
Good idea.
Thank you. All right, that was all I had. We have an abatement request.
It might be easier if I just explain
Go
what
ahead.
happened than trying, it was hard trying to create verbiage, yeah, for that.
To put this into perspective before she even starts, the abatement request is for $14.41. Including interest.
Yes, that is the interest, actually. So there was a subdivision in town that happened prior to April 1 of this past year. It didn't end up in our tax assessing software until after April 1. So the first half tax billing went out as one large parcel versus 3 smaller parcels. So when the tax bill went out, how first half tax billing goes is it's always exactly half of what you paid the previous.
Right.
The owner paid that full amount got associated with only one single property, which is okay, but once the property was then subdivided, it left a huge credit balance on one of the parcels and then a large outstanding balance
On the
on
other
another
two.
of the part. Yes, exactly. So when it came to fruition and we found out, I let the property owner know that it was, essentially.
Everything's been done and that's the, and I'll
Everything
make a
and that's
motion
the
to
interest, correct.
approve the abatement.
Correct. So we refunded the overage. They
Yeah.
used that refund to pay the outstanding balance, but
Right.
it happened past the deadline, so it's that $14 in interest.
So the town has been made whole.
The town has been made whole, other than the interest that we are
Okay,
agreeing to
second.
waive.
Yep, do I have a second on
I'll
that?
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. And I have this in my phone and still forgot it because I have nothing else going on. Margaret Thompson, who is our Lincoln's oldest resident, turned 101 on February 2nd. Yeah, incredible. Happy birthday, Margaret. Someone, I'm assuming Jane, got us a card to sign for her.
Awesome.
Yes, happy birthday. Sorry we missed it. I even have it in my phone, so I know, and I still forgot to mention it in the last meeting. So. I know, so do you. There was a couple other, the school. Sent out their district report card, and I think it's on our website. I think I saw that. I know it's on the school's website. Town hall is closed on Monday in observance of President's Day. And that's it. I just wanted to say that, that's all. Oh, we got one more thing. There was a letter that was dropped off today. Then they asked me not to say who it's from. I would like to request that the town of Lincoln make April Fool's Day, which is April 1st, the official Marshall Young Friendship Day. I think it's, that's
a good idea.
awesome. I love that idea.
Okay,
I do. He was very, very cool. Lifelong resident of Pleasant Street. He passed last year at 83 years old, I believe. And just a kind soul. Yeah, nice guy. Do you want me to read the rest or? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, there is a rest, right?
Yeah.
Marshall Young Friendship Day with a memorial bench that has been designed and is currently waiting for an estimate. Please, thank you for your time and consideration. And then there's a sketch of the bench, which is similar to the one that's in front of Wayne's Market. It has like 2 places to sit and then like a little table in the center.
okay,
I believe Roger Berube built that one, so I think that this person is getting an estimate from Roger
Okay.
Berube, the other one. And would like to place the bench somewhere. Oh, we were going,
Where we put it.
yeah, somewhere that, and I might, the old. That's it. Well, at first I thought either the library. Or community center, somewhere near the skate park or the garden or something, somewhere, but I think with some kind of a plaque that I think it's a great idea and I would love to do it.
I agree, I'd love to do that. You don't know Marshall.
I don't,
But
no.
everybody's.
Everybody's stories.
Oh, you always have a joke.
Always.
Yes.
And he loved taking pictures of the kids. And he would, when his mom was alive, he had one of those cameras, remember the round film cartridge you put in? And she would give him one a week and that was it. And then they'd go down to it was Lavertier's at the time, that's how long ago it was. And they would, it said that Lavertier's would mail it out, they'd get it back and he'd share with all the kids on the street. The pictures of them, he'd give them all away, but he loved doing it.
I'm in agreement with the bench.
Okay,
We can decide later, we don't need to make a decision now, but. I mean, it can go somewhere.
No.
and I think we should put it on the radar and on or around April 1st. Let's declare April 1st in Lincoln, New Hampshire.
By the library.
That'd be a great spot, yeah. Marshall Young Friendship Day, April 1st. I think we just do it and have a declaration and,
Say,
with
it's
Marshall,
his holiday.
absolutely. That's
If
his,
you knew Marshall,
Yeah.
like that,
Yes.
that's
it's a-
bigger than
Oh,
Christmas,
yes,
seriously.
absolutely. No question.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I did know much, but
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about April Fool's Day.
yeah, absolutely. He got me with a shaking my hand with a buzzer one time. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All the time.
I think it's a great
That
idea.
is a great
and-
idea, it's so appropriate.
If she's watching, which I know she's not, but somebody let somebody know that what a great idea. Thank you.
Can we do a
Fantastic.
proclamation
on or about whatever meeting's closest to April first, declaring April first to be Marshall Young Friendship Day and
What if we
Lincoln.
did it at the town meeting?
Oh, yes.
It just more people will.
Oh, good call. Yeah, and I will contact the person that wrote the letter and finalize an estimate on that bench, and we can get donations for that. We don't have to use town money on that. That'll get covered like that. There's a million people that'll throw
Yeah,
50 bucks in.
yeah.
So, yes, absolutely.
All right, so our responsibility is.
A proclamation at town meeting.
Drafting and presenting a proclamation at town meeting.
Mhm.
All right.
And I'll get a hold of the sister and make sure she's there for the night
Mhm.
or
All right,
something. Yeah,
if there's nothing else,
that's all I
Public-
had.
public participation. Jim,
You talked earlier about trying to do something with the traffic going in. But they try to do something with the traffic leaving. Sunday night, Debbie and I sat in the windows at St. Gardens. And it was like comedy capers, the people coming out of South Mountain. It was 2 lanes heading toward the interstate and there's no turn lane there. People were coming out, blocking the road so people couldn't go up to the mountain. Trying to get into lane, it lasted for over an hour. It was, no wonder there wasn't an accident. It was just comical to watch it.
It was bad.
They ought to do something about.
And they do have a
Because with the
detail,
traffic,
they
these
do have a
are-
detail every, you know that.
At Low, right?
Yeah, at, you know,
bridge.
at the bridge,
Right.
the
No, we're
town,
talking coming out of
so,
South Mount.
South Peak,
So, well, yeah,
when they park in
the parking lot,
coming across, yeah.
when I'm trying to come out right here with St. Gardens.
Pulling U-turns there, and it was,
Oh, yeah.
why there wasn't an accident, I don't know.
Well, I
Sorry.
think,
But everybody's leaving at once.
Yeah.
Instead of coming in staggering. So there is a lot of traffic leaving at once.
I think prior to next ski season, we're gonna need another traffic discussion, because once escape route parking lot becomes really the premier place to park, because you can have lift service right from there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right now, it's the biggest lot, but no one wants to park there because you gotta then wait for a bus. And no one wants to do that. Once there's a lift there, I think that's gonna be one of their busiest lots. And you're right, that traffic is gonna have a hell of a time coming out unless there's someone directing traffic there, just like there is at the bridge.
Well, and I think we also need to think about that too, is that I know that I think Loon's kind of hoping that this escape route kind of solves their issues further up 112, but is that just gonna push our traffic issues onto Main Street versus up, you know, further up 112? Are we gonna be jammed up here now versus jammed up there? So I think it's a valid point to kind of just make sure it's all on our radar.
All right. I think they're gonna push the issue from the morning to the afternoon, because in the morning, people going to Loon, at least when they turn right down South Mountain to get to escape route, there's a long road that winds down and, you know, basically all the traffic is turning to the right. I just don't see that backing up to the point where, like on the International Bridge, it comes right out to 112 and then up Route 12.
Sure.
I think the problem's gonna be in the afternoon. Exactly what you're saying is that people who are coming off the International Bridge, there's not a lot of traffic coming over the Kank
At that
at
time.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. But with all of those people turning left and coming up here, if you're trying to turn left out of South Peak,
Yeah.
all that traffic is there. That's gonna be the crunch point. So I don't,
We can get another detail there, maybe.
well, I don't even know if we're gonna need a detail at International Bridge as much as up here. I mean,
Right.
this is gonna be the primary point. But
Yeah.
we need a traffic meeting to talk about the new traffic pattern after escape route becomes a primary
Right.
parking lot.
We
So
totally get it.
to your point, that's,
Yeah, it was comedy capers. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I know that exit off of the highway, they talked about putting in another exit on the highway years ago, but that was.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion on that.
The two lights, they slow things down and gets backed up.
That's, yeah,
You decided to.
Devin,
Yeah, not this week, but next week, everybody knows it's Massachusetts Vacation Week. And I'm just wondering if perhaps it could be suggested to the police department that they have somebody at the entrance to school when the buses and all the.
In the afternoon,
they're trying to get out.
especially, yeah.
Cause it's, even now with it not being a holiday, Thursday and Friday afternoons are really hard trying
I'll
to
second
get out.
that, yeah.
Forget it if you wanna take a left-hand turn. You've
I
got no
just-
other choice but to go
I just
right.
look right and go left, they stop. But I also have full coverage, so.
By pretending to be crazy.
thank you. That's a good idea. I see you're jotting down.
I am, I'll talk to Chad, yeah.
Okay. I saw, I'm sorry, you didn't finish, so go ahead.
Another question, actually, directed to Karina. Blueprints for the police department, the future police. Would the committee be giving large blueprints like they did last time?
Sure, yeah, I just got them this afternoon, so I
Okay.
can print them all out and I can do that for you, no problem.
All right, thank you.
You have to pick on
Yeah.
them.
And they're coming to the next. meeting.
I invited them to the 27th and to the 27th meeting, yes.
Right, that's the next, that's our.
Correct,
meeting.
yes.
Okay. Just make sure all the committee, I mean, I know. Here,
An email back out tomorrow, or I think we have James got them all on an email chain, we can shoot it out, just to let them all know, and then give them electronic copies as
give
well.
them electronic copies ahead of time. So that they know what is being presented.
We can do that.
Good point.
Thank you.
All right, Paul? Paul, we can't hear you. I think you're muted.
How about now?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. When will the town reports be available? Do we know? And where are they gonna be made available at?
Are we delivering again? Yeah.
We haven't delivered for the last few
Because
years.
of COVID.
Because of COVID and because of the change in the village. Whereas it used to be all full-time residents and now
Right.
it's the mix of
It's a
50,
waste,
50.
waste
Right.
putting those in
No,
front
I
of
agree.
all the Airbnbs.
I agree, but I would like to, at least offer up that if anyone. It has the inability to come get one, or if they give us a call at town hall, we can make a list, we can do.
Can we just automatically though deliver to Lincoln Green?
Yeah, we
and
usually do a stack, that's what we did
Okay.
last year, we did a stack at Lincoln Green, we
At
did a
the
stack
senior center,
at the
yeah.
senior center. We do a stack at the library, we
Okay.
do, we'll put some,
Right,
strategically,
yeah. okay,
strategically,
thank
but
you.
if any individual has a hard time, getting around or would like a copy delivered, we could do that as well.
Could you,
Okay.
could you post it also at like the library? I mean, at the post office or something, so anybody local that wants a copy can stop at town hall, so they know that? And,
Sure.
and what date they're gonna be available at? I mean, I don't know if you know that, because I don't know if they've gone to printing or whatever, but
We don't.
if you have an idea.
Yeah, we don't know that until we, essentially, once the report's done, we get in the printer's queue and then it's kind of, we're just crossing.
That's where they are.
We have to have them, yes, the Monday before, the Tuesday before, they have to be available, and we will hopefully have them well before that, but, once we get in the printer's queue, we're in the printer's queue.
All right, and while I'm on that, the warrants will have what the tax impact is, each money article warrant will have what the tax impact is to the town?
Yeah, we legally have to do that, the town voted on that, didn't it?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, thank you.
March 14th, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see. Used fire truck. Did you ever decide whether or not you might look at a used fire truck? I know when I talked to you about it at the bond hearing, you said you might be interested in looking at that. I didn't know if anything further had transpired.
I have not heard anything from the fire chief in regards to a used fire truck.
Okay. All right. The only other concern, comment out, I have two last comments. One is on the South Peak entrance, as well as the skier traffic, OJ, you're gonna have 1,080 houses that are up there. They're gonna be transversing. I don't think there's 1,080 homes at Loon, but maybe with the Mountain Club, but you're gonna have a lot of homes going back and forth that South Peak Bridge too, and coming out that way. So that, I think you're gonna move what you have up at Loon down into that area, especially if if there's only maintains a single lane in, single lane out. I think you really need to talk to them about getting a 2-lane in, 2-lane out, so people have the ability. And I know when South Mountain was approved, Loon made a commitment to facilitate traffic coming in and coming out of Loon and South Peak. And they actually, I think if you look back at the EIS, you'll see that they offered to have employees on the road. Now, I don't know if that's quite kosher now. They would have to be probably trained to be on the road as traffic direction, but I think it was meant at one time that there was a discussion about having it go 2-lane in the morning and 2-lane out at night, as well from South Peak, but you might just want to look at that. And the last one I have, last comment, is the water tank at South Peak. I know we thought that putting that dam in was gonna be pretty easy up at Loon, but we ran into some issues with a bat or something, I think. And that took quite a while to get through that. My concern with the Forest Service is that it might take a lot longer than 6 to 12 months. And how does that affect the town's water? Everyone's continuing to build still. In the last couple of 2 or 3 years, there's been restrictions on outdoor water use. I've heard numerous comments, I'll say, about, they say, how can we continue to build, but yet we can't water our lawns? I mean, so there are those comments I made, and I know that it's not the same in context, and I try to say that, but there are a lot of comments out there like that. So I just wonder if where the town's at in regards to, do we have enough water? Take a look at this winter, not very much snow. The recharge is going to be very slim. I know you're doing the best you can, but is there a plan B in case they say there's a squirrel up there now, it's going to take 2 more years to study its habits?
Those are bats. Wasn't it bats?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's something different. That's all.
No, I get it, yeah.
I just wonder if you were working on some sort of, it's always nice to have a plan B. I mean, and is plan B just let the developer put that tank in and we'll do something different? Because the developer has the ability to do that without going through all the study, or does he? I don't know, based on his other location. I know you want to have that location there, but I guess if it's going to be an extended time, should you ask if there's an alternative option out there,
Well, I think the alternative option, Paul, is that's exactly what would happen if this project doesn't come to fruition in the next year or two. I think the developer will do just that. He'll build his own water tank on his own land that's not on Forest Service land, that's not as the same capacity as ours, to solve his problems and not ours, essentially.
Well, right, but I mean, instead of him building the tank on his property, I know the higher elevation helps the town a little bit, but and I'm just asking, would a plan B quite possibly be putting a bigger tank on the lower elevation, even though it wouldn't help as much? Would it assist the town in that regard for now, if it's going to take a couple of years, instead of waiting and getting to that point, is all I'm asking.
Yeah, no, from all that we've heard from our engineers, building a bigger tank at the lower elevation is gonna cause more problems than it solves. It's gonna require us to circulate and filter a tank that doesn't get enough turnover, because it's not feeding this many people, it's only feeding this many people. So building it bigger causes more problems than it solves. So plan B is if we reach a point where the developer puts in the smaller lower tank, as he was told to back in 2007, we're back at looking at what other alternatives the town wants to fund.
Well, and I guess that's my point. I think the town paid, and I don't know the name of the engineering company. It was Mr. Malivi, his group. They had several different alternatives, including different locations for tanks and pipe sizing and stuff like that. The reason I'm asking is because I just would hate to get a year out and then all of a sudden say, here we are now, we're in the middle of the study, we gotta wait for another 2 years to figure that one out, and it's gonna cost us X amount more money when we might be ahead of the game, kind of sort of, to look at maybe an alternative. Just to, you don't have to push a lot, but just to ask what an alternative might be.
I think we already have.
Yeah,
I mean, just a thought, like I said, just a thought, OJ, I just don't, I've seen the town get stuck in a lot of it, because of certain things, I mean, it's like, you got two of them right here, I mean, you get the skateboard park, we found environmental issues, and we got the dam where there was an issue up there, and that took a long time, I mean, poor little mountain went through heck to get the ski area in, so I mean, it just would seem prudent maybe to kind of ask those engineering companies, maybe to see if this takes too long and fails, what's our alternative, I don't know if there's another higher access site between the village or Loon or something like that might be available too, so. That's all.
I
I'm
understand.
not trying to cloud the issue, I'm just trying to look forward, that's all.
Right, I understand the philosophy. I'm not sure I want to go to town and ask them to fund engineering or looking at funds for a project that none of us want to do. We don't want to do this, but we want you to pay to have us look at it.
Yeah, you have a point.
When it comes to a point where we can't move forward, we've already got Hoyle Tanner reports that say these are other either less preferable or more expensive or both options. Then we'll have to make a decision to pick one and move forward with looking into that one more in detail, but to spend money on that at this point, I think it's way too soon.
All right.
The other thing, Paul, I don't think dire straits at this point in time, from what we've seen, and you know this better than I, the capacity that we're at now with the units that are on the drawing board, we're still only, I believe, under 78 or right around 70%, 68, 70% capacity. So it's not something, but like you say, you need a backup plan down the road if something doesn't come to fruition in the next couple of years. But I don't think we're in dire straits.
I thought our water was pretty close. There were days where we were meeting what our capacity was, and that's why we went to, for instance, in the summertime, we went to no outdoor watering of lawns and stuff like that. I thought it was a little closer than, we were a little closer to the bone, so to speak, than just.
I think some of that all came from the
From
state.
the state
came
had
from the state,
declared
too.
us a.
I mean, OJ sits on Prelac, and they were one of the entities that really were pushing for this ban on water. It just wasn't Lincoln. I mean, it was area wide, it was statewide. Constantly, we were getting notifications on what areas of the state were in severe droughts, moderate droughts. So, everybody was in the same boat. It wasn't just because we're building new construction that we had to put that in place.
Yeah, and it had more to do with withdrawing water from under the river than it did with the size of our pumps or tanks or filters. All of that's fine. I mean,
So we have enough capacity, then it just, with the current building, there's plenty of water capacity to feed the current demands and those of the foreseeable near future, I would
Yes,
ask.
any subdivision that has prior approval is included in our water capacity study, whether they have a shovel in the ground or not. So that includes the rapids, that includes South Peak, that includes any vested subdivision is already calculated into our water capacity study
And sewer capacity.
and sewer capacity study.
So that means that they were all built today,
Yes,
we would have enough water and sewer to serve the 1,080 units at South Peak, the whatever there is over here at Forest Ridge, all of that.
correct.
Correct.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I thought we were closer than that.
No,
And the reason, and the other reason I say that is because I thought at one time that the Board of Selectmen went to a first come, first serve because of the vesting. People weren't building things, and then along comes the hotel and says, I want to build this new hotel. So how do you stop a new hotel versus, you know, a development that's not quite built out? And that's, you know, I guess if you guys say it's fine, it's fine. I just, I hear a lot of grumblings about it, so I just, and I know the recharge.
Let me clear it up in case there's other people listening who don't understand. The first come, first serve was driven by the sewer capacity. It applies to the water capacity, but it was driven by the I guess closer limitation on the sewer capacity. And the problem is that these projects that are taking multiple years or projections that we're tying up sewer capacity for projects, you know, from 20 years ago. That's when we went to the first come, first serve, but in doing that, the ones that were vested projects that already have a legal right through the state definition of a vested project, we included in the sewer calculation, like South Peak, 1,000 units, they're vested. We included that in the calculation. And then as each project, like recently the Hampton Inn, or what was the Fairfield that's now the Homewood Inn.
Home to Suites.
Suites. Once they get approved by
Yeah, you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
that's part of the first come, first getting planning board approval. We now reserve that water and sewer allocation for them.
Okay, all right. And I mean, and I had thought that, and I know there's a,
He's frozen up. I don't know if he's trying to talk or, oh, you're frozen up.
yeah, I'm trying to talk. You've been breaking up, or maybe I've been breaking up. I'm not sure. But I know that there's something in the water regulations and sewer regulations that say that there's only 3 years is the most that you can approve a water permit for. So you have that too, if you wanted to use that, I guess.
There's
But anyway,
also,
I mean, you've answered the question that answered my question. There seems to be enough water for that.
yes,
I think that's all I have. Thank you very much.
thank you. Danielle, do you have anything? All right, I'll make a motion. We have something non-public, right?
I don't.
Oh, we don't?
No,
Do we have a personnel update?
I can give you one if you like.
Just a quick one on, yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, there is a personnel. So I'll make a motion to go into non-public to discuss a personnel issue.
Sure, now second.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
right, Danielle, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
5-minute break.
Are we not recording the board? Oh, okay.
How do we